y'all don't mind real quick introductions, we'll start with this rascal over here.
I'm Martin Severin. I'm with 99+1.
Austin Mock, I'm also 91. Kennedy Tully, and I'm 99.
Samantha Morgan, 99+1.
Brian Andrews.
Edgar Meredith, 39+1.
Scott, 99+1.
Paul, 99+1.
99.
Great, thank you all for being here. We've got you, so next would be approval of the order of business. We do have kind of a packed agenda at the moment. We have minutes to approve, past minutes. We've got, we would like to just hear a word from our new board members. We do need to get through elections. We need to have a public hearing of 30-day comment period for the 2022 action plan. We have a new resolution on the table, although I didn't print a copy. Did you print copies of that resolution that we emailed?
I do believe I
Okay,
did.
thank you. Yeah, and then we have a presentation by 99+1. So,
That's you. You also missed Terry over there.
oh, Terry. Hi, Terry. Thanks.
She's hiding over in the corner.
Great. Thank you, Terry. Yeah. All right, and then yeah, I guess I would entertain a motion to approve the order of business that's presented here. Okay. Thank you. Elsie moves. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. Any opposition to approving the minutes or to approving the order of business as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider this the order in which we move forward with. We'll approve minutes from the last official meeting first, which would have been, was it April that had actual, that we had a quorum. So if you would all just review the April minutes real quickly. I know most of you weren't here. I think Julie and I are the only commissioners that were. Yeah. Oh, Josh is back. Hey, Josh.
Hey.
Want to introduce yourself to the members that are present?
Yeah, Josh Flowers. Been on the commission for a little over a year, but work at Covenant House, Alaska. Been working on homeless issues for about 10 years.
Thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the April 6th minutes. Okay, I moved to approve. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yep, motion to accept.
Thank you, Josh.
I'm sorry, can you speak up? I couldn't hear
Elsie
you.
moves to approve the minutes.
Thank you.
And Josh seconded.
Thank you.
I don't have any problem with them. They look great. Thank you, dog.
Just for those folks who haven't been on a meeting here, for those people that are online, the camera is this little flat guy hanging out over the desk right here. The microphone is also on that camera as well. So if you speak really quietly or you speak toward that wall, that is not going to pick you up. So if you speak a little bit louder, it'll be able to hear you. Or we can just look to Josh's face, and if it looks really confused, you can't hear him.
Okay. Is there an opposition to approving the minutes as presented? Hearing none, we'll consider these the official minutes of our April meeting. Do we need to approve the June minutes since we did not have a quorum? I don't believe we do.
Yes, but no, you mean something, so no.
Yeah, okay. And there was no business that took place. So. All right, great. All right, so let's quickly, we'll take a few minutes and introduce everybody, our new commissioners, which we're very excited to have. Yeah, I guess let's start. you would like.
Hey. So what would you like to know?
We'd like to know, how about what you tell us, how you came to this and, yeah, why you're here.
Well, I was approached and asked if I'd be interested in, and I said yes. My history is that I have rental properties in Anchorage. I've been managing them. My first one I purchased probably over 3 years. And I have a real estate license, which is status right now. But because I haven't been active to date, but I have managed and maintained my units and all of that stuff that goes along with property management. So
And real quick, Valerie, can you just let the record show that Kathy's here?
yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Rosman. Catch the last football meeting. So, White House Mission.
Thank you. Jim?
Alaska. These maybe judges, mostly construction. This is probably the most important body, I think. We can really take the problem is housing. Solutions to it. Most of the solutions are sort of like the finance, those are licensing, license broker, real estate, finance business. So, finance business. Some of the overlaps. Anything to become structured finance in such a way that it works. For example, one of the multi-family building the last national finance corporation is they can have it. The road was approved, the lenders are active. They can lend it. But housing is a stair step. But if you don't work the bottom rungs of the stair step, it costs you on the top. So that's how it works. It doesn't really matter what area of housing any of this is in. Because we're all going to work that stairway one way or the other. So that's what we do. Story. I was on the public zoning. We were hopefully understand the feeling of being explained. I'm happy to help you.
Thank you, Jim. All right. With that, we can, move on to the agenda, to election of vice president or vice chair and chair of the commission. The role of chair basically is to run meetings and set the agenda. The role of vice chair is to step up and do that in the absence of the chair. I agreed to serve another year as chair. I've been trying to get somebody else to take over. Julie has agreed to step up as vice chair or chair in training, if you want to call it that. I'm sure if you guys, she's not here today, which I think totally empowers us to vote her as much responsibility as we can possibly give her.
Hey, I'm listening. still here, SJ. That's
Yeah,
okay
we
though.
should put this to the end of the meeting. Anyway, it's, you know, the direction that this commission takes is really, at the pleasure of the body. You know, I mean, our job is to decide what we want over the next year. And so, I mean, I'm happy to serve in this role for another year, unless one of you really wants to step up. And yeah, Julie has volunteered to step up for the vice chair. So I would like to nominate the two of us for those positions. I would open up the floor to any other nominations. Okay, hearing none. Julie, you up for it?
Absolutely. I'd be
Okay.
honored. That'd be great.
Is there any opposition to electing that slate for these positions? Hearing none, I guess we're dialed in for a year. Thanks, Julie. I appreciate you stepping up.
No problem.
All right, and see, I run a fast and efficient agenda. Great, so Jed is going to present, and we will have the public hearing, the official public hearing for the 2022 action plan for the consolidated plan now. Just for those of you commissioners that don't kind of fully understand the process, consolidated plan is how the municipality of Anchorage directs several different HUD funds, ESG fund, well, they'll explain them all, home funds, EDG funds, a bunch of acronyms that get into real in depth. The consolidated plan kind of directs stuff. The action plan says how it's got, how those funds are going to be spent in the next year, or actually in. They're required to have a public hearing during the 30-day public comment period. The HHAND Commission is very pleased when that happened, so we just that. Yeah. Just grab the mouse.
Okay, well, thanks SJ, and thanks to HHAND Commission for hosting this public hearing. Tried to do public hearings just on their own before I don't get lunch. So we like to partner with the HHAND Commission to get more outreach and public input on these documents. So I'm Judge Roy, Senior Neighborhood Planner with the Anchorage Health Department, and like SJ said, the programs that I'm going to talk about here are mostly housing and community development related, but you know, we are part of the health department. So, you know, everything impacts health and health impacts everything. So, you know, I'm sure all of you are well aware of the impacts to health, development and community amenities and lack thereof, and housing issues with a big impact on health. So, you know, just we have these slides at the beginning, emphasize that yes, we are part of that. We're focused on things that may not always seem directly health related. So our planning process is dictated by HUD. It's a pretty standardized process that, you know, every community that receives these funds has to go through. So there's some hoops we kind of have to jump through that don't always like seem to make the most sense. We don't always seem to be the most like logical, but got regulation. But that said, I think it's a pretty like easy planning process as these things go. So I guess you said we have a consolidated plan. Oh yeah, could you share the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to get the screen share of the PowerPoint.
But I'll need
Oh yes.
mouse to do it. Thank you. I can't get out of this. Go back in here, share.
Oh, yeah. So it's like,
There was somebody in the body. This is why it's kind of tough to do. There you go.
okay.
I think they're in.
Okay. Okay, so I think that should be sharing. So we have our consolidated plan, which is a 5-year sort of strategic plan where we define goals for types of projects and programs we're going to fund over the next 5 years. And then within that 5-year period each year, we have an annual action plan where we identify what specific projects we're going to fund that year. These are formula grants. So they, Congress passes an appropriation whenever they do these programs, and then divides that up using formulas calculating how much each community that's an eligible community program gets. So we don't have control over that. We get whatever they tell us we get. It fluctuates a bit from year to year, but it's usually pretty close. And then we have to decide what projects we're going to fund consistent with the goals that have been identified in the consolidated. So once we've got the consolidated plan approved, our projects in each action plan have to fit into one of the goals identified in the consolidated. And then each year we have a report on what we did that year that we submit to HUD. It's called the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER. And that's also, it's not planned per se. It's more like checking up on the status of meeting our goals through the planning process. So it's a pretty well-designed planning process. It can be a little tricky because the timing of appropriations and so forth is not always very easy. So the program's covered by the con plan and this process. Community Development Block Grant. This is primarily for non-housing development and community services. So this is both capital projects, construction projects, and public service projects. And we fund both with our CDBG money. Home Investment Partnerships Program. Home is capitalized, but it's not an active standard. And that's that's primarily focused on housing, and particularly on buildings. That's the money for that is primarily for rather than services. And we've contributed to a lot of different housing projects that have come up increase in purchase and home money. ESG Emergency Solutions Grant. This is primarily focused on services, and particularly on services to address homelessness. This was originally called Emergency Shelter Grant Program, but they broadened that to the solution. So it's not just shelter-like operations, although that is one thing that the county does fund. And then the National Housing Trust Fund is another program that is covered by this process when we take this money. This money actually goes to the states, and they can sub-grant it to us, but they don't always. That's an agreement that we make with Alaska Housing Finance Corporation based on our goals and their goals. Even if we don't take the money, that still will, a portion of that still goes toward projects in Anchorage. So some years we do that, and some years we don't. If we do, it does get included in our plan. So those are the programs. There we go. Okay, so here are the funding amounts. Just so you can see it. So this includes the 2022 amounts, which are what we're going to be, the plan that we're discussing today is going to allocate. You can see that for CDBG, we're a little bit less than last year, just a little under $2 million. Home and ESG are a little higher than last year, and we're not planning to do the Housing Trust Fund funding this year. Just slow. Okay, so the goals, just to go over kind of the framework we're in. We're in the last year of the 5-year consolidated plan that we're currently working from, and we're beginning the process of doing the next. The next one will cover 2023 and on, but we're still in the one that covers up to 2020. So these priority needs and goals are those identified in that existing 5-year plan. Our project we select for 2022 will have to be consistent. As you can see, they're pretty broad goals, and most of what we want to do that's fall within them. So the priority needs, not going to be a surprise to anyone here: homeless populations, low income house populations, public facilities, public services. These are the main things that we're trying to do using these processes. And these are the goals in the last MOA comp plan: rental housing development, homeowner rehabilitation, mobile home repair, homeowner development program, public facilities, public services, some more specific things: tenant-based rental assistance, assistance to community housing development organizations, economic development, and homelessness prevention. So, anything we do has to be within these goals, but, most of the things that we would do are going to fit within these goals without too much trouble. But these are the things that we will be revisiting and potentially changing. So if people have thoughts or recommendations on that, we are eager to hear them. Slow. It's not. Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah, when it has these tables. So this is really the heart of the presentation here. Is this is our proposed allocation of funding in the plan document, which is on our website. This is a single table with all the programs, and broken these into separate tables for the different programs for this presentation. I know this one especially is a little bit hard to read because there's a lot of stuff here. This is CDBG program. One thing I'll note is that we caught a mistake in the version that's on the website when we were presentation earlier. So we'll get that updated, but these amounts are different from what's on the version that's up there now. The categories are not, but the amounts. So we have a variety of programs that we frequently fund. Mobile home repair, some of these public services things are continuing programs that we've funded for multiple years, and are proposing to continue to do that. Some of that is to be determined. One thing I want to highlight is that we're planning to set aside a substantial portion of the funding for both CDBG and home to pool that to do potentially an acquisition project to purchase a property to develop for housing of some sort. We've talked to our grantees and partners that we've worked with in the past and have not identified a specific project at this point. People have mentioned some projects that have ended up getting funding other places and so forth, but we're interested in finding a potential place where we can contribute some portion of the cost of acquisition to develop housing that would address the crisis in housing for the community. So people are aware of that potential partners. This is a situation where the muni would not be proposing to build something and own it ourselves. Probably we would just be finding a partner that would do that work, and we'd be some portion of the cost of the acquisition. So we're planning to devote a substantial portion of both the CDBG and home funds to that potential project. So that's the CDBG funds. This is the home funds. Again, a big chunk of that for that acquisition, also a little bit for operating expenses, Habitat for Humanity, and then tenant-based rental assistance. For the ESG, Emergency Solutions Grants Program, we're planning to do something a little bit different with this time. In the past, we've done sub-grants to a variety of organizations with this. What we're planning for this year is to use all of that basically for the homelessness prevention programs at the HHAND Facility Resource Center, which is part of the Anchorage Health Department. So that would actually not be sub-grant. Keeping that money for that program, which is so that's the proposal. Again, this is public hearing, this is public comment. We're open to thoughts, comments, other ideas. Very much a work in progress at this point. Just a bit about the timeline. So we're in the midst of the public comment period, which will end July 20th. We'll still take comments after that point, but the official 30-day comment period, we put out public notice on June 19th to July 20th. That period, so we're right in the middle of that. This is where we're doing the public hearing in July, get them submitted to the assembly in August, and submit to HUD in August. We have a pretty firm deadline of August 16th to get this submitted to HUD, otherwise we lose. So there is kind of a tight timeline here. But the process is moving along smoothly, so we're on track. Now the next con plan, that's a little bit of a longer timeline. Again, this will cover the next 5 years starting in 2020. It will also include the action plan for 2023, so there will be a portion of that plan that will also be shorter term addressing specific projects. So we're beginning that outreach now. We'll have a draft out in the fall, probably in September. Public comment period October, and trying to get that submitted in November. We probably won't have the specific amounts for 2023 yet at that point, because that depends on action by Congress, and they're not very on the ball these days. And so we'll probably have to do is estimate the amounts in there and do an amendment when we do know the amounts, and which we have done sometimes. It's a known thing. As for 2022, we do actually have the specific amounts of the actual applications are being done through this process. So, a lot of consultation in this process. We've been doing ongoing meetings with a variety of partners. HHAND Commission, obviously, very important partner to consult with on this. And, I've been at every one of these, several of these, and giving updates on that process. Community councils, social service agencies, HFC, any other interested organization, someone wants to talk to us, we're not going to say no. And just gather whatever input and ideas people have for how to use these funds. So how to comment, as SJ said, we'll take formal public comment now. If anyone has that, on the front of the agenda, there's some deals about how it works. Otherwise, and if you do that, you can just give your comments now. Otherwise, you can email the special email address ahdcsdplans@anchorageak.gov, or you can mail it to our mailing address here, and we'll receive that. And so, I'm taking questions or people have comments now. I'll take those. This is my contact information. If you want to reach me directly, that's my direct line and my.
Jen, do you want questions directed straight to you or through the chair?
However you prefer. So.
Your time.
Okay.
I've got questions.
Okay.
Sure. Stuff myself. So first question, under CDBG, there was about 2,450,000 was earmarked for administrative.
Yeah, that actually, apparently this is not get updated, because that actually was the mistake with that calculation that I did earlier. It's actually about a little less than 400,000. You can get up to 20% of CDBG for administrative.
And that goes to this department.
That goes to this department, and that covers, a substantial portion. So yeah, that is, the other programs also have an administrative allocation, but it's much smaller programs and stuff. So.
And then I noticed under CDBG and the action plan, there's a number of line items for about 70,000 each for kind of continuing costs program things. So assuming, like when CAP's taking place, assuming the 2023 action plan, which is following the new consolidated plan, doesn't call for that or isn't in there, what happens to that program?
They have to find other funding. There are definitely a lot of these organizations we work with that do kind of depend on this funding being a regular part of their operation.
Yeah, I've definitely seen the same ones come back in a year. I'm wondering if this is intended to be seed money or if it's intended to be operational.
It's generally continuing operation. Some of these programs and we'll just get.
I would like to say your timelines and showing where we are in the different processes is great. I don't think commissioners have ever understood the process really. We just didn't kind of track dumped on us. So knowing that you're doing outreach for the comp plan now is really exciting. And this commission will kind of take on each year and decide if we want to kind of advocate for anything. Realizing we're only talking about $3 to $5 million a year, so it's not a huge company. And also it seems like you're well on top of the schedule. I mean, the 2018 plan, I believe, was approved in 2019. So we're submitted to the assembly in 2019. So kudos for running a process like this and explaining what's going on. Thank you. Any other questions from the commissioners?
Jeff, thanks again also for doing this. It's really helpful. As a newer commissioner, I was wondering if I could make a comment request. I would like the slideshow that we just presented, if you that like email it to us or have it out for everybody to kind of go. Also, I'm wondering, Jeff, these slides and numbers that you showed, I'm looking on the report on the WIMI website right now. I think a lot of people don't know exactly how to get to that, so that's good information too.
Yeah, I should.
How to do that. So those two things, because I, like yesterday, I really liked that timeline, but my brain was just getting to it when you
Right.
switched off. I know you're trying to get to it. So that would be helpful to take a look at that. Oh, the website for questions. That was also too fast. Could you just say that one more time?
Yeah, so, yeah, the email for, let's see, go back. It's ahdcsdplans@anchorageak.gov. And that goes to, I have access to that and some other people in our department too. But you can send into that to kind of keep track. You can also send it to my personal work email. Appropriate them, but that's just a way to keep that straight. So we can make sure to do that. And when we do get public comments, all the public comments we get will be incorporated into the final draft. Even if we don't, accept the recommendations, we still have to publish the comments and explain why we're deciding. So, any input you give will, at a minimum, be acknowledged and we'll have it in the final plan. And it may very well, affect changes that we make as we get to the end.
Can I just follow up? For the slides that you presented, that was really good concise information. Would you consider that kind of a consolidated idea of 72 pages?
Yeah. Yeah. I say, that, for this presentation, I tried to it's like a 70-page document. A lot of the document is dictated by the format that we have to submit things to HUD. And so a lot of that document actually is kind of boilerplate stuff that doesn't share, descriptions of things that are, related, but not really particular books, like what other organizations are doing, stuff like that. What a lot of that document is. That chart that I pulled these numbers out of, that's really the key thing. There's a chart there. It's about the middle of the document. It shows all these numbers in one table, and then there's a few pages of description of the specific projects. Not a whole lot of detail, but a little bit more. That's really the key part to look at, because that's the actual plan. The rest of it is kind of stuff like that. That's important for HUD to receive from us, but the key thing is really that. And that's the basis of what they try to do there.
We have a question from Julie online. Can you speak, Julie?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. A couple questions, Shed. So just to clarify, those admin costs that were clarified before, you said that they were around 400K instead of 435.
Yeah.
For the CDBG. Okay. I thought admin costs had to be no more than 10%.
It's different for each program.
Okay.
For CDBG, it's 20%. I think
Okay.
for it's 10, and for ESG, it's 5. So yeah, it looks like a big chunk because it's a higher percentage, and it's also CDBG is a larger program. So yeah,
Right.
That's where that's coming from.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty big chunk. So that's why I wanted to clarify that. So my other question is on the when I went through the plan, it looked like you were still using 2010 census figures and statistics. Was that did you guys, is that an error or did you just not use the 2020 census figures?
I'll have to check. I think that's probably carried over from previous plans. I don't know if the same data from 2020 census in all those categories is available yet, but that would be a good thing to check on.
Yeah, because a lot of those categories, like when it's breaking down who are in these situations, a lot has changed since 2010. So I'd be curious to see if they're not, and it's not available, that's one thing. But I just noticed that those, especially in the last 12 years, a lot has changed. And so I'd like to see updated figures if it's possible. And then my last question is, there's a program that there was money given to last year and this year called Choosing Our Routes. And I kind of have an idea of what that is. But was there any specific, I was trying to figure out, are they using that for program services or actual buildings? Do they have specifics on what they're using
They have
the money for?
specifics on that. I believe the for the 2022 money that they've requested, that's for building stuff. They purchased a building.
Jedediah, I can answer that question.
Okay.
So for Choosing Our Routes, hi, it's Andy. They are using it for program services, and there's a tiny bit that's allocated for some building repairs, but they purchased the building with ARPA dollars, and then all of the money for CDGB public service is for program. So
Great, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate that. And that serves LGBTQ homeless teenagers, or is it?
technically
Go ahead,
it
Amy.
serves anybody, but it is targeted for LGBTQ, even if they are not in that group. They are still screened and potentially recommended to other programs, but they also can stay in that program as well, not being in that population.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it.
and it's youth. It's not just teenagers, but young people. I forget the exact age range.
It's the transition age youth, which would be 18 to 24.
All right, 18 to 24.
Julie.
All right, that's all I had, SJ. Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions from the commission? To the public. Yeah, I guess under the rules that we've got here for a municipal public hearing, if you're representing a group or community.
SJ, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there is a person, Sarah Drummond had her hand up.
Oh, super. All right. I'll just remind everybody, it's 5 minutes for groups and communities, 3 minutes for individuals. So go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, I was just wondering about the NeighborWorks funding. I know NeighborWorks has a history of taking a very long time to review applications, and therefore a very long time, it takes them a very long time to get people into housing. So I'm wondering, with this funding that's going to their TBRA vouchers, is there any kind of requirement that they must review applications in a timely manner or anything like that?
I'll have to check with our staff that manages that funding. I don't know what requirements we put on them for how they handle the TBRA funding, but I'll check into that and see what.
Okay, thank you. I was also curious, it's my understanding that Sitka Place has not offered case management services for quite some time. So I'm wondering if the funding specifically for case management at Sitka Place is to hire people specifically to exclusively offer case management services.
I don't know. My understanding was that they have been, and we have been funding that for the past few years. But yeah,
This is Andy. I can answer that question. Or Jessica, you would be even more perfect to answer that.
Thanks. This is Jessica Parks. I'm the Housing Operations Director at Rural Cap. Sitka Place had some vacancies in the case manager position. So there was a period of about 2 months where we either had one case manager on site or zero. And this funding supports one of our 2 case managers that are normally on site. But we did have a clinician on site the entire time, and then had our operations staff and our clinical director filling in providing some case management services, but we are completely staffed up now and as far as I know, providing full clinical services at all of our locations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sarah still has her hand up.
Oh,
I
sorry.
don't know if she has another
And then,
question or,
well-
oh, there she goes.
Go ahead, you.
My name is Prince, representing Revive Alaska Community Services. We have an ongoing acquisition and construction for housing veterans and seniors. We've been serving the community, but this is our first time in the whole process. So we'd like to know who to make contact with, and so that we can sum it up. Good.
Yeah, that would be me. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being involved. Yeah, you can, this is my contact information. You can email me or call me and I'll set up a meeting and we can talk about that.
Was there anyone else online, Miller?
Julie just got disconnected, but she's back on
Okay.
now.
Great. Any other questions from the public? Is hearing none. Jen, thank you so much. And yeah, the commission I know is going to probably yeah, take on the issue and see if we can provide some direction. Great. See that we saved 10 minutes on the schedule. So, yeah, next up, I did prepare enough copies, or we didn't prepare enough copies of the resolution for everybody. But at our last meeting, we discussed kind of making some noise as a commission over closing of the Sullivan Arena and the fact that there is a dearth of services between then and whatever is happening in the future happens. This navigation center, I said I know that. And so yeah, Julie and I started talking through ideas, and just based on that, I put this resolution together. I don't know if we want to read it through so that it can be read into the record. That might make sense. I think I can get through it quickly. And the resolution kind of goes through quite a bit of background as well for us to kind of understand what we're dealing with. Basically between the mayor and the assembly kind of battling over this, how to pay for what and how much and what, and then the public kind of chiming in like we did at the Centennial Campground hearing last week. I don't know about you, but I think somebody needs to step forward and say, hey, come on, this is a community issue. We need to come forward and solve this. So, yeah, the resolution just basically concerns this gap in services that exists right now. Saying whereas homelessness has been a growing concern in the Anchorage Bowl for decades, long before COVID-19, whereas the municipality adopted the Anchored Home Plan in 2018, where our commission is tasked with advising the mayor and assembly on issues related to housing, homelessness, and development. Whereas in 2018, we pivoted to make homelessness a central concern for investigation and creation, and where we took the position that Anchorage Home is the municipality's best chance to curb the increasing trend of homelessness in Anchorage, and where we recognize that homelessness has gotten worse over the decades, not better, despite hundreds of millions of dollars being spent. Whereas the municipality is under pressure to eradicate illegal camping within its jurisdiction. Whereas you can't just kick people out of camps without having a place for them to go, according to the Ninth Circuit's interpretation of Supreme Court precedent. Whereas the American Civil Liberties Union Alaska chapter has established a consent order with the municipality dictating how we evacuate camps. And whereas the CARES Act gave the municipality the opportunity to create a mass congregate shelter, the Sullivan Arena, that allowed for abatement of camps, and where the municipality is committed to closing the Sullivan Arena, and whereas alternative shelters that are intended to replace that capacity are not sufficient to replace the capacity of the Sullivan Arena and are not online yet, and whereas representatives of the municipality have stated publicly that with the warmer weather, they're not worried about the safety or well-being of individuals experiencing homelessness. And whereas unsupervised public camping presents significant health and safety risks risks to individuals experiencing homelessness, including predation, access to illegal drugs, prostitution, human waste, and exposes the neighbors surrounding the areas where this camping happens to petty theft, human waste, needles, littering, and noise at all hours of the day and night. Therefore, be it resolved that we oppose any plan that will lead to increased illegal and unsupervised camping in public spaces. That we further resolve that we advocate for the Assembly to provide more resources to be spent providing services to individuals experiencing homelessness immediately, while possible alternatives are being developed. And be it further resolved that we believe closing the Silver Arena has led to an acute problem in the woods and private properties adjacent to and surrounding the Silver Arena, subjecting individuals experiencing homelessness to predation and neighbors to theft, drugs, human waste, drinking, and littering, which warrants an increase in security around those areas. And be it further resolved that we believe the best approach to homelessness is the scattered site approach, wherein homes of 6 to 10 residents are spread throughout the municipality in which supporting services are provided. And be it further resolved that HHAND supports the establishment of public campgrounds such as Centennial as a temporary measure to provide safe alternative to camping unsupervised in the woods until sufficient supportive services, supportive housing establishments and scattered site homes are built. And be it further resolved that we request the municipality increase its camp abatement as long as spaces are available in Centennial Park and other supervised campgrounds to ensure health and safety of all Anchorage residents, both housing and homeless park. So put a lot in there. I think everything up to the through the whereases kind of covers just the background. I intentionally put a few things in the be it resolved parts. To discussion. Well, good. And so I would first off like to lay this on the floor and entertain a motion to approve this, and we'll get a second, and then we'll discussion.
Question first. Sorry, I'm thank you. Motion to approve that we're just going to be discussing. It doesn't mean that.
Exactly. Yeah, and then we can, once the motion is open to approve, then we can have motions to amend. So, thank you. Thank you, Elsie. Great. So Kathy moves to approve. Elsie seconds. Great. Kathy, you want to start?
Yeah, I'd like to start. This is a hard letter to write. I totally recognize that. I read it many times since you guys sent it to me in order to edit, and it's tough. So I just want to recognize that we're working with a problem that's been going on for as long as I've lived here, which is my entire life. One letter is difficult to sum it up, but where the HHAND Commission is, that's where we're trying to go, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. I have some little things, so I'm going to skip to the big things, okay? So let's go over to the be it further resolved. So I knew that you thought the resolutions were going to be the tougher one. These were numbered, but the 2, 3, 4th paragraph, and be it further resolved that HHAND advocates for the Assembly to provide more resources to be spent providing services to individuals experiencing homelessness immediately while possible alternatives are being developed. I take a lot of exception to that in that you wrote it earlier in the letter, we've spent millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and things continually get worse. So if more money was the answer, we wouldn't be sitting here with this problem. We've just continued to put money after money. So I'm in the commission because I am looking for a resolution. I'm hoping for a resolution. I have a heart for these people, and I don't want them to be in this position anymore. And throwing more money at it has not resulted in what we've been looking for, which is results not only for the citizens and for the businesses, but for our homeless neighbors. So I don't like that. Do we want to talk about it each one, or do you want to hear my whole thing?
Go ahead, why don't you run through and then why don't you close some of them?
Okay. All right. Then the next be resolved down. Be it further resolved that HHAND believes that the closing of the Sullivan Arena has led to an acute problem in the woods and private properties adjacent to and surrounding Sullivan Arena, subjecting individuals experiencing homelessness to predation and neighbors to theft, drugs, human waste, drinking, and littering, which warrants an increase in security in those areas. So the problem I have with this is just the presupposition that the Sullivan Arena was ever where this should have gone in the first place. So yes, I'm closing the Sullivan Arena at any time. We were gonna have this group of people that moved into the Sullivan Arena that had never happened before, that was never built to be a homeless shelter. That was the largest, longest operational emergency COVID shelter for homeless in the whole United States, and affected neighbors and the whole area in a really negative way, and did not solve our problem. So I think the problem that I have with that is that it seems like closing the Sullivan was an option that we had. When I would say closing Sullivan was something that should have happened a long time ago. It's not been in the best interest of the Anchorage. And so that's why I don't care for that paragraph. So I just move on to the next one. Be it further resolved that HAND believes the best approach to homelessness is the scattered site approach, wherein homes of 10 to 6 residents are spread throughout the municipality, and in which supportive services are provided. Well, I am new to the HAND Commission, so I've only been on for about 6 months. So I understand that the HAND Commission in the past, that is what the HAND Commission came up with. Again, I don't think the results that we're getting are the kind of results that we were looking for. And so I don't know that that is the best approach. I think that we've seen that this approach that the municipality has taken towards homelessness of taking, I'm just saying this as a citizen, so I'm not trying to say nice words, taking responsibility away from people and making it, I think we know that people that are not taking responsibility for their own lives, as a part of the segment of people that we're talking about, we can never talk about everybody in as one whole group, because we're talking about individual people. I understand that. But the way we've been approaching this with all services, wraparound services, 24/7, and trying to get these things done this way, again, I say, if it was working, we would have a totally different situation than we have now. So it's not working that way. So that's my comment on that. Then the last resolve, be it further resolved that HAND requests the municipality to increase its can abatements as long as spaces are available in Centennial Park and other supervised campgrounds to ensure that the health and safety of all Anchorage residents, both housed and homeless, are met. I do agree with that resolution, and the reason is because we have to work within the system that we have, right? So we have to work within what we have created and what has happened in the city. So this is the situation we're in right now. We can't say, oh, we wish it was different. This is the way it is, and we want to be responsible, we want to be compassionate, we want to be realistic, we want to get results. That's what I'm looking for. So that's my comments.
Yeah, I'd be happy to address.
Sure.
Sure. I'm going to start with the Sullivan Arena, so the second point that you've done. I do agree that, I mean, kind of the fact that the Sullivan Arena and what it was, isn't necessarily the ideal. However, I think definitely what I was trying to address more, both with the fact of eating resources for individuals experiencing homelessness right now, and with the Sullivan Arena, I'm addressing a bigger issue as well, which is if we're going to put any kind of services for any at-risk population in the city, there is more that the city has to do than just hire a contractor to open doors. I mean, the fact of, like, for instance, what 99 Performance doing in Sullivan Arena, I think was a phenomenal job inside those doors. The fact that it was there created the thing that exists on Sullivan Arena now. And the fact that they're closing the doors means that there's a population that's habituated to an area. And mind you, I've got, I see this up blocks away. So, I'm literally putting twice a week and meals, and have been for, and I see the anger at an event like this in Centennial Park, the fair that they had last week. And I recognize where that's coming from. It comes from the failure of the city to address what's happening outside the borders of the contract. Because it's not their responsibility. And I don't mean to point you guys, but you guys were wrong. That was a good example. It's not their responsibility what happens outside. It is the community's responsibility. And the fact that, you know, something so large creates such an attraction for so many more people who are going to predate and, you know, kind of like create a situation means that the larger a thing is, I find, the larger a thing is, the bigger that problem to the community. And so, you know, and really right now, if you're not putting resources into addressing those problems, the property owners surrounding will be on. You know, as an example, there are two empty lots on either side of my property at 15th and Gamble, and both had anywhere from 10 to 30 campers on them every night, as long as I can remember now. You know, one, there's like there are bands that pull up with drugs and alcohol. You know, the one just up the road from the Sylvan. And the other one just across the way is just like a very secluded place where people can't go to the sun. And both those property owners I've spoken to, they both are absentee. And they say, you know, they say it's not my responsibility, it's the city's problem. Why should I have to pay to put up a fence? And it's not an unfair question. And so, you know, kind of part of what I was trying to get at isn't necessarily that we have to give handouts to everybody that needs a hand up, but it is that there is a population that is in need. Don't address it, it's going to get worse. And leaving it for the summer is going to have horrible.
Can I jump in, guys? Just in response to sort of both of those thoughts. I think it's important for us to remember that pre-Sullivan, we did not have enough beds in our city. So we came into this pandemic with a lot of people, even the folks who were at like BFS, for example, they were all over that, you know, they were all over the place. So the dollars and the resources that we put forward prior to the pandemic were not sufficient to successfully house all the people who needed housing at that time. The work that's been done through the pandemic, with the addition of some of the things that did get accomplished, some of the places that are coming online, that has moved us forward as a community already. And I think in regards to the Sullivan, the giant mass care is not the most successful model. And I think folks knew that going into that, but this was an emergency sort of response. The best models, and I can say this from our work at Covenant House, is smaller types of interventions with specific responses for specific needs. So Kathy, when you're saying that it's individuals and they all have different stories, that's correct. And each group, you know, so just as an example, we were running 60 shelter beds at Covenant House for a lot of years. I had a population in there of some folks who just, you know, like they dropped out of college, something bad happened, and they really just needed a really light touch to go forward. But then we also have folks with co-occurring mental health and substance use going on and have high needs. But those people were in the same space. And so creating a structure for both of those people to be successful in the same space is extremely difficult. And so the smaller types of interventions, and that's where I appreciate the sense of moving toward a scattered site model with smaller types of interventions. When we create those, we have opportunity to be successful. So Covenant House, that means for us, that's 40 shelter beds, that's 50 plus transitional living beds, that's the 40 plus micro units that we're adding, that's voucher-based housing in apartments. So there's tiers with ability to respond and then meet the needs that each of those populations has specifically when it comes to mental health, substance use, education, employment, and it gives them the opportunity to be stable and then move forward. So I do think looking back, there is a lot of money that has been spent here. But if we look at, you know, and somebody can tell me if this is true or not, but I think the majority of the money that we've spent, even from the federal government, has been on mass care emergency shelter, like Brother Francis, or like opportunities like that, which has shown that is not the best way to move people forward. So if we can continue to create smaller types of interventions with specific needs being met, we're going to see folks not experience homelessness for the same duration that they are. And then just to touch on the last point about the centennial, I do think so. I was in agreement with what you wrote there, and I think I would actually advocate that we add an additional line that speaks to this being an official homeless response at Centennial, because my understanding right now is that it's not an official homeless response, it's that it's a fire mitigation response, which has meant that there's not like Parks and Rec is trying to manage this camp right now. It's not folks who are trained to respond to folks who are experiencing homelessness. And then we have service providers in the city who are scrambling to try to meet needs, like Beans, who's going to start bringing, they're going to do 3 meals a day that they're providing on their own dime for these folks. And there's other folks like HRAC and Rural Cap and other folks who are starting to try to figure out how to stand up a response. But it's not officially a place for folks to, it's not an official homeless response. And hasn't been communication, to my understanding, about how long this is going to be. So it's very difficult to stand up services around that. If this is a week, is it 10 days? Is it, till the fall? We don't know that. And so as for service providers, it's really challenging because we could set up some things that would help make this more successful. But without that knowledge, it's hard to do so. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, back in my past, the last state housing, house 3,500 was subsidized housing. You look at the large projects, you look at the small projects. The size of community and there were people who were qualified to use Section 8. That was a program. There was the Section 8 existing and the Section 8 new construction. But, and I say that as kind of a background. And admittedly, this is my first meeting. It's not to bring back to like that of the process. But any numbers, I'm a numbers guy. I've been reading financial statements. HFC's got billion, $1.5 billion. And Brian says, we shouldn't have $1.6 billion sitting there doing what? But he's got about $1.3 billion. Has got almost $2 billion. Plus they have we have assets. I read the state's financial statements, and I know this is the city, but the state's got the money to solve this problem. We have a gubernatorial race over there, which is going to make sure that everybody's interested in the solution. I like that the resolution is a first step, and I agree with the premise that the smaller project might work or fit in, but I don't know if we're ready to make that decision. I don't know. I understand what the problem is. When I go look at a project, and I underwrite big projects. I think this was 22 million for a city within the state. So I didn't finance them on the Alaska pipeline for $1.3 billion. And so it's not like the money's not there, the money is there. The question is how to augment the high money with the HHC money, with the ADA and AHHC would actually get together and fund one project and make that a model project. And then what you do is you move the model project into the nonprofit private sector, and you put it in Section 8. The programs are there. The federal programs are there. The state program, the local program, not so much. Okay, that's why we're having a growing thing. Now, I want to help them. I'm not in any way the resolution, but I think it's pretty. I don't know, and I think we should take some time. My first act as deputy executive national, we had an executive committee meeting, but it was my first day. They had a computer system for approval. And this was the management team. And they've been working on this thing for a long time. It was $90,000. It's a big deal. But actually, at the time, I moved to table it and won that because the executive director brought me in as a banker with his checks, the bucks. And we spent the next 60 days doing a functional decomposition of exactly what problem we were going to solve with this $90,000. And frankly, I didn't care whether it was an Apple system or IBM or anybody's system. It didn't make a difference to me. It didn't make a difference whether it was 90,000 or 100,000. What made a difference was that we had the right software for the program where we launched it. If we had to build our own software, much recognized up front, we did. Built the new software, and it was very successful. And we had 3,500 units in that. So it can be done. So my suggestion is let's all, and I know this commission has been short staffed and I'm good. I've been working it pretty well. But I'd like to work on maybe a resolution that brings HHC to the table, that brings data to the table, brings the other sources. If the HUND guys ought to be dangerously embarrassed about this. They have the money to solve it. That's not a question. So that's.
Can we like talking about wrestling?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. I guess the one thing I would say, I've brought this forward because it's an acute problem that we're facing right now. We don't have the power of the purse or the power to determine anything. Really, all we can do is say, hey, this is an issue. Say things like, we like this or we don't like that. But we're not this. So, we don't have the power like planning and zoning have to do something. So, really the goal is to sort of point to an acute problem, which is a gap right now that's causing people to really face distress. That's ultimately. But thank you.
I appreciate the comments. And, one of the things that we talked about in the last commission that we did not have a forum at was the not addressing mental health issues, not addressing substance abuse issues, and the treatment of those major issues in this population, that are particularly harming this population, was something that we had talked about that really needs to be like front and center. And I agree, because I'm also new and I think getting people up to speed and everything, it is frustrating because we want to make a difference, and this is something that's happening right now in front of our eyes, and it's affecting people that we love, and we want things to happen. This slowness of the bureaucracy, I know, is frustrating for everybody. It's super frustrating for me. But I think the comments from Jim are well taken. I think that there's underlying issues, but we keep talking about these issues, and there's underlying issues that going to address.
Do you, I mean, this is a side note, a tangent, not germane to the motion or to the resolution at all, but I mean, what I'm hearing too is I think we need to have another retreat. Yeah, so especially now we have a full commission or a full commission. Yeah, so why don't we kind of like, why don't we get together and make a plan in the next month or so to figure out how we want to move. So we kind of make groups of time here, and we're all kind of on the same page. But to that end, Kathy, was there something in the motion that you wanted to add?
Can I move to table?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a second, so let's put that to commissioners then. We have a motion to table. And we have a second. I would like to see it go to vote, because I'll vote against it. Yeah, let's just put it to commissioners.
I need to interject.
What's that?
I need to interject in the health department. Clearly, it comes from a great place and it took a lot to write it. It's structurally defective. So for instance, you quote CARES Act money, zero's CARES Act money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Robert's rules of order is how we're going to run the meeting,
That's fair.
and there is no debate on the table motion. It's been seconded.
Right. Good point. Sorry, you have to give us one.
What you got?
Okay, so the motion that we're facing right now, thank you, Jim. The motion that we're facing right now is to table this, or to continue discussion. So the motion to table, all those in favor of tabling, just raise a hand. 3 there, and anyone online, Josh, you wish to table as well? Julie? Oh yeah, Julie stepped off, so that, we'll call that a majority. So yeah, the motion's tabled. Move on. So let's,
Dr. Hahn,
yeah, so
with that said, I would just ask you to partner with the health department because we will
feel
be,
free to come to our retreat one.
okay, or you guys send this to us. We'll be glad to provide you. I heard somebody request data. MBA, I'll be glad to help you with any data you want, but you know, we need to make sure it's accurate too. It's not structured. We don't want to say we use CARES Act money.
Right, that's right.
Right. So we just want to help you with creating a document.
We really appreciate it. Great, thank you. So that issue's been tabled. Which means next is Terry. First one. And you've got almost 20 something minutes.
Terry. Our company's 99. HHAND Commission. Your kind and generous invitation, I appreciate it, requesting us to do the presentation. Truly appreciate it. The purpose of our presentation. To know about us and our present and what we have accomplished, number one, and number two. That being said, Cesar, get it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Ramirez de la Cruz, and I work for 99+1. The purpose of this presentation is for you to get to know our company and see the successes that we've had while we managed the Sullivan Arena during the 8.5 months that we were there. We're also here to discuss the needs that will allow us to set the foundation to address the complexities of every individual by providing wraparound services that will help relocate individuals from the streets and into stable housing. And within our presentation, we'll also share some data and accomplishments that we
Sure. And Josh, can you hear everything okay? Great.
Hi, my name is Austin Mock. I'm the lead outreach coordinator for 99+1. Thank you for giving us your time today to give you this presentation. My vision and hope for this company is to continue to put forth the maximum effort that all of my coworkers here, along with the rest of the crew that we had at Sullivan Arena. And on top of the Sullivan Arena, we have the hotels that we've been in, and then serving the most vulnerable population, the homeless. So with time and effort, I know that we can continue to transition the clients from homelessness to stably housed, taxpaying citizens who can enter society successfully with the
not only life skills, but the resources needed to thrive in everyday life. We want to break the cycle and the stigma that society has built up through generations towards the homeless population. We want to show them that with care, time, and challenging work, we can rewrite the narrative of homelessness, just given the space and opportunity and ability to do that, we can continue to do what we have been doing. And our success stories have been from the hardest of cases to all of our staff members have had personal success stories that they can attest to.
With that being said, with the facility that we do hopefully obtain, we hope to serve all the population or those that are affected by homelessness, which includes those that are also at risk of being homeless, individuals dealing with mental health issues, substance use issues, and other disabilities, males, females, youth, elderly, victims of domestic violence, veterans, and LGBTQ+. We've had experience already serving those populations, and our Dave O'Brien will present that data.
My name is Brian, System Administrator for my school. Prior to September 16, 2021, data collection seemed to be a little too experiencing homelessness. These next few slides, I'm going to be able to illustrate and paint a picture using numbers. Each number is a person. These numbers are not inflated, exaggerated, or duplicated. From September 16, 2021 to June 30th, we have served 1,833 clients. The second week of November, we experienced a cold snap here in Anchorage, and Friday the 12th recorded the highest amount of clients staying in one night, which was 532 clients. The demographics for race, 45% of the population that we served were Alaska Native American, while 31% were white and Caucasian. We served, there's 139 clients who have reported having served in the armed forces. The next slide is sexual identity. This is a question that is uncomfortable at times for clients to answer. So many of them can review this question, but nonetheless, we were able to obtain this information. Next slide shows self-identified disabilities and undefined disabilities, including substance use disorder, mental illness, traumatic brain injury, intellectual developmental disabilities, Alzheimer's or related dementias. Of the 1,833 clients, 1,677 reported as having a undefined disability. 594 reported use of alcohol or other substances. Now, when clients come and they meet with us, and a client denies the use of alcohol or other substances, if they come and they are obviously intoxicated or they're smelling of use of alcohol, then we'll mark yes to that. Yes. And then 501 reported having a mental illness such as PTSD, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. The next slide shows that clients and their ability to any Alaska Native we'd like to take a look at this slide. That's what I have for that.
Good evening. My name is Kennedy Tolly, and I am a shift need supervisor with 99+1. And in my role of shift need supervisor, I have many responsibilities, which include shelter operations from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m., overseeing 16 staff members, documenting incident reports, following appropriate protocols when dealing with community partners and aiding clients. Since my employment with 99+1, I have built lasting relationships with clients who have come through the doors of the Southern Region. I have been on the front lines along with a great group of coworkers interacting with clients on a day-to-day basis. And the rapport that our team has with every client has been nothing short of remarkable. Since our takeover of the operations of the mass shelter at the Sullivan, our team has dealt with numerous obstacles given each client's situation, from overdoses to assaults, death, to altercations. Our staff on site has taken the necessary measures to de-escalate each situation as professionally as possible. Coming from a homeless background, as most of our staff have, we can relate to our clients and have a level of empathy to better understand each client's situation. With that knowledge, we were able to coordinate with our navigation team to get the client resources that they needed. During the closure of the Sullivan Arena, many of our clients who were not able to be placed in permanent housing were in fear of not having a place to go, and the only option was the Centennial Campground for the time being. Since the closure of the Sullivan Arena, there is not one time when our staff stopped thinking about the clients we have grown to care for. Every time our team steps foot on the campsite, we are bombarded with clients asking where they would go for after the closure of the campsite. Fact of the matter is, just don't know. But know that our team will be on site to get our clients the resources they need to accommodate their needs. Our work doesn't end because we don't have a location, but it will be a huge difference if we have secure location. With building with a building in place, it will tremendously alleviate the concerns that our clients are constantly having to worry about every single day, especially their safety when it comes to being left out. In homeless camps without 24/7 supervision, medical attention, and resources that they can tap into. If we do not come together as a community to tackle our homeless crisis, in 5 to 10 years, we can easily become the next Los Angeles, Seattle, that has seen an influx of homeless individuals right in our very own backyard. If we are not part of the solution, we are definitely part of the problem.
My name is Smith Morgan. I'm the Texas Case Manager for 99+1. My personal view and opinion on the homeless population is on a far more personal level, genuine concern when I speak to. During my life, I have experienced homelessness, drug addiction, and mental health issues. With that being said, I have had the opportunity to see both sides of things. And being able to present this. What I mean by this is, at my most vulnerable and desperate, I had a dream of a place that could help. The very basic necessities that people oftentimes overlook: a hot shower, a meal, somewhere to just have hope or guidance. During my time with 99+1, I've been able to provide that to clients. Not only resources and materialistic items, but in my opinion, hope. And that's what's missing in our community with this. Every day that I was at the Sullivan Arena, and hopefully to come, I get to come to work, and I'm given the opportunity to drastically impact someone's life and what can come of their situation by just showing up to work and sharing my story. That's why we're here to propose the community come together and offer hope to those that feel hopeless.
Can you go back to the needs?
And I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
James William Scott, 99+1. I'm pretty kind of dry when JG kind of talks about money for allocating towards purchasing a building. That's why we're here.
Everybody kind of talked about the mass care side not really working. With the team that we put together, we made it work. And it is doable. And in the interim, the kind of immediate need is to get these individuals off the illicit illegal camping that's going on right now. The only way that's going to happen is if the building is put in place to actually set them down the road. If we want to look at separate sites and all that, that's definitely viable. But for the foreseeable future, we need a mass care building. So that's why we're here.
Real quick, sorry, but I mean, to the body, we have about 5 minutes left in our agenda. Do you want to kind of cut off the presentation right now, or do you want to extend it? Do you want to extend the meeting? What's the total of the body? 15-minute extension? Okay, so Kathy moves to extend the meeting 15 minutes. I'll see seconds. Any opposition? Okay. And are you guys okay sticking around for 15 minutes? Great, thank you. All right, so the meeting will adjourn at 5:45 now. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to go over the list of accomplishments that we've successfully completed while managing the Sullivan Arena. There's a long list, but these are just a few bullet points that we want to present to you. We partnered with APD, Lieutenant Haywood, before she retired. She made several suggestions which resulted in us going from 7 APD calls a day to 1 APD call a day to about 0 APD calls a day. And that would go on for a day or 2 or 3 where we had 0 calls. As Brian stated earlier, we went from data completion from 8% to about 99.1%, which is a huge deal because that means we collect data on every single individual that was staying at the Sullivan Arena when they came to our doors for services. I worked for ICA, and when I entered, or when I came to the team, that was my goal, is to collect data and to make data really important because it tells a story, which is what is allowing us to be here right now, to paint a picture for you all. We were also able to train our staff in de-escalation, domestic violence and sex trafficking awareness, and Narcan training. We also implemented intensive case management and outreach services, which went above and beyond what our contract called for. And that is because we really genuinely care about the individuals that we serve, that we've connected with, and we don't want anyone to not have services just because there's no facility for them to go to. Another bullet point that I want to highlight that is not on there, we were successfully able to house 143 clients since September up until June 30th. Out of the 39.
Yeah, we're just looking for some help. I mean, we're going to be, partnering with, excuse me, different organizations. This isn't going to be solved. It'll never be fixed. The only thing we can do is manage it. And with the entire community coming together and the team that we already have in place, there's nobody that can manage it better.
Okay. Yeah, can we run around those commissioners? Go ahead.
You're talking about a building, just like a large building. Is that what you're looking at?
There's a couple that we were looking at, yes.
Okay, because my concern is, I'm pleased with what you've done. And it is a major task, but I'm concerned that we're putting everybody, no matter what your situation is, people. And you guys are trying to sort of move it, but there's still that we just needs help in getting versus someone that's addicted and is maybe still working to get out of it. It's just not good to have everyone. If you were to have a separating the needs, so that they are in an environment that is conducive to what they're not. That's what I'm going to call it. It's too much work. I said that, but I also know there are some people homelessness.
Yes, there's a, sorry, so I came from Omaha, Nebraska, and one of the largest shelters in Texas House, to the campus. They have a transitional living veterans home, and supportive housing. A year shelter that houses about 200 individuals. So it's a campus that would work. Each person has their own living quarters. They're segregated or separated by class or by groups, just so that they don't interfere with others' progress of making tour.
And you said you have some. Yes, that's a matter of fact, we do. Yes. Well, it depends on what the kids. But we have got it down to 100 people to take care of. It's 100,000. I'd like to touch on that. Thank you, sir. The last assembly meeting, she said, is a big one, is not one. I call it one. Operating tax base. It's 392 people. 100 people to be. That's 36%. But we have taken no dollars. Our for-profit have not. Had to go and get a nonprofit because we have to get some. It's what we have done. Because.
So I have a question about that. So, and especially you're raising money to buy a structure. You're a nonprofit corporation. You're a for-profit corporation owned by you.
But we have to have
Sure.
a nonprofit arm because we can't get grants from that.
Okay, so you have a nonprofit arm that would be applying, say,
Just
to HUD. Like, what's that? What's the nonprofit arm?
it's the little bit.
Okay, great. Okay, so, and how does that?
How does that?
I mean, what the part that I'm talking about is, and let me be specific about the question. For-profit company is working on margins. Is basically working on providing services with margins so they have money to invest in more later. I mean, that's kind of the basic profile. Nonprofit model. But I'm not done with that. But really what I'm getting at is, okay, you're a for-profit corporation. You're engaging in providing services as a for-profit. And I assume all the staff here are employees of your company. And if there's a dollar made at the end, and so I'm wondering, kind of like you're both providing services that are important. And I agree that you're doing a good job within that you've done a good job within your. But you're now asking the public to fund for-profit operations. Okay, so explain that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the same conundrum that I faced when they asked me for my advice on how to structure this. To me, I look at the nonprofit as a bit of an opportunity in the sense that it can have a different purpose than the for-profit side. And the existence of the for-profit side, to me, the crucial thing is keeping them completely and utterly separate. And that's something that we all discussed as we were setting this up. I want to see a brick wall between these things because I don't think it's fair and I don't think the public would react well if you go to them and say, we want you to contribute money that's ultimately going to end up being profit. So to me, the thing that makes sense is saying, clearly define the mission of the nonprofit. Whatever money goes into the nonprofit is 100% used for program expenses, not administration, because we can do that the way that it's structured. And saying that way, the contributors who are putting money into the nonprofit can have some certainty that their money is going to go to exactly what they think it's going to go to. And it's also going to go directly to programming, to program expenses. And that comes down to even things like my vision of what I would be doing as a role there is saying my intent would be to donate my time to the nonprofit because I can do that. And that has the beauty of limiting the administrative expenses or eliminating them completely. And I think the open question in my mind, which is something that I would encourage discussion on, is what is the definition of that role? Where is that brick wall? What is the raison d'etre, as it were, to the nonprofit itself?
Well, it's not uncommon to have a nonprofit that seeks grants and for-profit arm that is contracting with the nonprofit, but you do enter into potential conflicts of interest there, but I mean, I didn't realize you had a nonprofit on. Joe. Okay, great. Nice to meet you. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Any other questions?
Which doesn't require study how much money is going to go for acquisition. There's got to be a bottom line thing for us to do. Speaking of return, but if what you have is a very good start and a very good company that is accomplished what you set out to do. That's good. Now we'll cover the planning process. Tell us how much money, tell us the sources of the various funds. I mean, if you want, I'd be happy to look at it. Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so a buck up at $1.25 swing, 5%, 25 cents. Every single time. Maybe at least 45 is what we have done. So we do the room for services that every 100 people. So 20 and done. Size of the board. Done. Also, in addition to.
I assume, Jim, what you're talking about, I mean, I know Marty's very familiar with how to put a pro forma together. I mean, if you're interested in kind of looking at the numbers, I would suggest maybe offline you guys, maybe reach out to Jim.
My perspective, if you want money, identify the programs, identify the how. Let's get down to the brass tacks. We don't have to spend a lot of time to do that. Having a bunch of different places that have money to find out the load of the pressure, make the money.
Oh, Jim, the one building that Jimmy had a hard set on it, and they're not, because I think I know. I'm not sure about remodeling, but my guess is probably the south side of the village remodel. It's in the downtown. So I'm working on a little bit of a battle with some.
I will be one of those. I'm 100% convinced that we have too much of a concentration of troops just in one being the downtown area. I think we need to spread our population around to certain.
Again, they are spread out. But what do we do with like 500 people? That don't make it solve the I drop our own the drop of the our good guess is probably 4,500. And they live in the woods. So
You said 4,500,
they'll come in the shovel.
4,100. Point in time, I believe 2022 was, what was it, 1,800? Sorry, 2,100?
I'm not positive. Because we're.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough, point in time council, and more people. In August, of course.
Thank you.
For the sake of getting rid of some sort of time, would it be okay to still exchange some contact information?
Absolutely.
Additional information that you want.
So that's,
And that's okay, my PowerPoint presentation,
thank you so much. Great, we do have 5 minutes left on our agenda, and we have room on the agenda for public comment. Just on anything, I believe. There's general public comment separate from public hearing. Are there any members present or members of the community present that want to say anything? Well, great. I'd like to thank you all for being here. And I entertain a motion. Great, thank you. Moved by Elsie, seconded by Jim. With no objection, we'll call this meeting end at 5:40. Thanks for staying late.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I